Welcome to the MeltDown. We're talking the business of sports with host Vince Thompson, the president, founder, and CEO of Melt, one of the leading sports marketing companies in the country.
Welcome back, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas version of the MeltDown. And man, have we got a lot of gifts and presents to unwrap and open for you, and maybe a few holiday surprises and stocking stuffers as well. Don't forget, you can follow me on social media at Vinny Inc. or at MeltATL. Hit me up on LinkedIn as well, or our website, www.meltatl.com. What do we got to unpack and unwrap, open this week? What's happening with the CFP? The granddaddy packing up, moving to Tejas. Bowl cancellation update. Coach Saban weighing in. Tom Rinaldi to Fox. NFL and Amazon. Are we seeing the social media giants beginning to continue to come into the rights business? What's going on with the Super Bowl? Sports wagering moving fast. Bill of Rights for the NCAA. Update on NIL. What's going on long-term in the business of college? And what in the heck is going on with my alma mater, Auburn, and their coaching search, if you can call it that. As predicted, the top four, television. The Tide. Will they rematch with Clemson? Ohio State, 6 games, fresh legs. Clemson, Trevor, unbelievable. I went down to the Mercedes Dome, watched the Tide. What a thrilling game. It's the reason that we love college football. Notre Dame, the Rose Bowl. Is it going to be the Yellow Rose of Texas Bowl? The granddaddy. But it is going to be some entertaining games to watch. Kids, amazing. They've made it through the season. Kudos to Commissioner Sankey, as we've praised him many times. I think nobody takes the Tide. I really don't. I think they've got the top 3 finishers in the Heisman, with respect to my bud Trevor, Mac, Devontae, Najee. Maybe they just give it to them as a threesome, a troika. Amazing, though. Great kids, great talent. Really love Mac. Really love Devontae. It was a crazy game, entertaining game. The Gators did bring it. Was A&M legitimately left out? I really think that they actually probably made the right call. I'd love to have seen Cincinnati creep in, but obviously they're going to play the Dogs in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. That's going to be fun and entertaining as well. But again, Rose Bowl, Yellow Rose of Texas Bowl. The granddaddy packed up and moved to Jerry's World. And I agree with this decision. Now, would it have made more sense for Alabama to travel to New Orleans than Dallas? Yes, probably. But however, I think it's great that the friends and the family are going to be able to go and see Jerry's World. I know the Cowboys have been letting several thousand people in to see those games. And I know they know how to run a very safe and secure environment out there. We're playing this day to day, obviously, with quarantining and the virus and the protocols and those types of things. And so we'll keep an eye on this. But big news out of California. As of now, 16 total canceled bowl games, majority of which are owned by ESPN, owned and operated properties. The Birmingham Bowl just canceled. And we've talked about this a lot. We know it's shelf space. We know it's inventory. We know it's eyeballs. We know it's ad dollars. But the local communities in a lot of these smaller bowls like Birmingham, Shreveport, and those things, it's a really big point of pride. El Paso for the Sun Bowl. My good friend Craig Silver and the Sun Bowl Hall of Fame produces that for CBS. We know it's a point of community pride. But arguably, will this lead to fewer bowls? I think that it should. I think there are way too many, and I understand the math and the science behind it. I understand the money, but you also had a lot of kids opting out as well. So this could be a long-term trend. 28 bowl games remaining, counting the CFP playoff series. Coach Saban calls for a commissioner of college football, a czar. You're going to see this story continue to gain a lot of legs. You're going to see it in Congress. You're going to see it at the Supreme Court with the Austin case. You're going to see it with NIL legislation. You're going to see it with the Power 5 breakaway. Is Greg Sankey the leader in the clubhouse? He certainly is in my book for what that gentleman did in servant leadership, how he led the way with COVID, how he set the example. The SEC really shone through this year. So kudos to the SEC, and then kudos to outgoing Commissioner John Swofford at the ACC as well. But, yeah, I would say that Greg Sankey's the leader in the clubhouse. The SEC obviously is the most powerful conference in football. Disney's giving you 7 billion reasons over the next few years why they are, and obviously Coach Saban, the GOAT, has a say-so in this as well. Who'd have thought it? Tom Rinaldi to Fox. A continuing exodus of ESPN talent and employees from the building. My good friend Burke Magnus at ESPN's got a lot to do, got a lot on his plate. He's a good guy. He's capable of doing it. But what a great storyteller. What a great gentleman. I've had the pleasure of encountering him many times on the road with College Game Day. And his portfolio will evolve, and I predict you will continue to see more of an ESPN talent exodus as more content providers get in the game of sports and content and college sports and wagering and fantasy. Sports still is a big driver and a big engine economically in the world of content and eyeballs and advertisers and sponsorships, which is going to drive other bigger decisions down the line with the NFL, NIL, and those types of things. And speaking of the NFL, Amazon, they're discussing doubling their fees. Ratings are weak. Ratings are down. Ratings are in a decline. But the NFL still is the biggest game in town and in the world, maybe with the exception of FIFA and the World Cup and the EPL and some of the other major international soccer leagues. Why? It's still a live galvanizing force. The ability to gather a bunch of eyeballs, the rapid acceleration of legal wagering in many states, fantasy. So it's even less about teams than it is outcomes of your wagering or outcomes of your fantasy players and leagues for the week. But I will continue to tell you that I believe Facebook, Amazon, Google, YouTube will continue to plumb in this space, will drive the fees up. And part of the reason I think you'll see, you saw Disney double down with the SEC, is because the streaming services, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu, continue to drive the numbers. At the end of the day, content is the king, and we've always talked about that. Super Bowl advertising, they haven't sold them all out yet, but I know my guys at CBS, and I know them really well. They know what they're doing, and they know they'll pull it. Will they command the same $5 to $5.5 million rate? Will some advertisers opt out? We're seeing some that are. Will there be fewer viewing parties due to COVID in the home? Will there be fewer parties in the Buffalo Wild Wings of the world in the on-premise environment and those types of things as well? Will there be new people in the game too? What will the tone and tenor be of those advertisements in a crazy pandemic, election, crazy 2020 as well? So it's another story to keep an eye on. I do believe they'll obviously wind up selling the time. They're having to do some make goods now, CBS and all the other networks, based on some of the weakness and dilution in NFL ratings. But expect us to be in a big rallying point, and you're still going to have enormous eyeballs. We've talked about legal wagering. It's moving fast. Since 19 state legislatures and D.C. have legalized sports gambling in some form. Another 27 moving towards some form of legalization. You see where Charles Barkley just signed a deal with, I believe it was DraftKings as well. I know what Charles Barkley commands in sponsorship fees. It's a 7-figure number, by the way. giant new money moving into ESPN, NBC, CBS, sponsorships of the teams. You're ultimately going to see that. You saw it in Colorado, the first one in the college space. Giant revenue stream to replace some of the revenue that is lost by sponsorships and attendance. NBA's kicking off. I think it's today. Most of them are fanless as well, so you're still going to see that revenue loss. It will probably result in billions of loss. But it's a evolution or a migration or a shift in consumer behavior where we're still watching college and professional sports in live, in game, in real time, in prop bets that are going to drive this thing and continue to move it. So if you were going to bet long on a stock, live sports content and programming is still the place to be. You see what Senator Booker did within Congress, continuing positive movement for the student athletes, for compensation, for name, image, and likeness. The Alston case before the Supreme Court, tons of antitrust pressure on the NCAA. Is it a crumbling institution? Can they withhold it? What's going to happen with March Madness? If they don't play March Madness, the rapid acceleration and demise of the NCAA will continue. But it's moving toward rapidly in favor of the student athletes. And you know, for many, many years, I've been an advocate for their rights. In fact, 40 years since I stepped on the campus of Auburn University 40 years ago. Long term, what's going on here? I think, as we've all talked about, you're going to see a seismic shift. You've seen it with the business model with cable and cord cutters. You've seen it take – the attendance was in decline pre-COVID. It was a generational gap, uncertain start times. That's another reason the SEC went with ESPN, to be able to control consistent start times, particularly with younger people who have less money, or their kids are in a soccer league, or they're distracted, or they want to just watch it on a big screen because the viewing environment requires 12 hours to go back and forth to my beloved alma mater at Auburn. But it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. You're going to see financial pressure within the athletic departments, but then you're going to see new sources of revenue from the wagering, from NIL, from the streaming services as well. So the great news about college sports is that they're never going to go away. It's evergreen. They're tremendous student athletes. They're tremendous institutions, tremendous programs. And the student athletes, there's always going to be a market for this. So will there be massive financial seismic adjustments? Absolutely. But it's going to be fascinating for us to cover and give us a lot to talk to you about going into 21. And speaking of my alma mater, what the heck is going on down there? I know the players really well. I love the players very well. Alan Green, tremendous. Tim Jackson, tremendous. Bo Jackson and Randy Campbell, tremendous. But and Daniel Parker, who, by the way, led the search to bring Alan to Auburn. I still don't understand the use of search firms in coaches, but that's a whole nother discussion for another day. But there's also some Einstein's theory of insanity going on at Auburn. First of all, and I never was a Gus fan of his football, but $21 million in the middle of a pandemic. Now we're crying poverty. Now we retain a search firm. Now we put the same people on the committee to choose the coach. And now we got played by Mario. Clearly Hugh Freeze did not fit the bill. With respect to Kevin Steele, great defensive coordinator, went 9-36 at Baylor. His last stint as DC at Clemson, I think his last game, they lost by 70. With respect to Coach Dye, rest his soul, it's time for some fresh faces and for some fresh eyes in this search. I love Bill Clark at UAB. There's a little bit of snob factor at Auburn as well. Brent Venables, tremendous. Steve Sarkisian, obviously the rehab program he's gone through with Coach Saban. Luke Fickell would be amazing, but it's clear that we need to do a little something different than we're doing right now at Auburn. And I say this without being critical or criticism. I'm an outside observer looking in. I have no inside information as well, but it's not doing the Auburn brand any favors in the nation, in the media, in the press as well. It's a great job. It's a great institution. Facilities are world-class. Alan Green's amazing. Our fan base, our alumni base, there never was that emotional connection with Gus. He did have some great and thrilling moments. I witnessed those as well. But maybe we need some fresh eyes and fresh faces in this search, with respect to my friends and colleagues who are in the middle of this search, because the outcome right now is obviously there is no outcome. So 8 to 9 days into this thing, there clearly was a plan, but as Mike Tyson says about a battle plan going into boxing, every boxer has a battle plan until they get punched in the face for the first time. So we'll wind up with somebody good. It's just not doing any favors for our brand right now. So it's been a tremendous year. Thank you for your feedback, participation, signing up, viewing, your comments, your feedback. We're going to have a rocking 2021. Lots going on in the business horizon, sports business horizon, NIL horizon. We really, really appreciate all your feedback, following us. And don't forget, the new book, it's out. It's selling like hotcakes. Last Chance, great stocking stuffer, Build Brand New, available now on Amazon.com. I'm Vince Thompson. Merry Christmas from Melt, the MeltDown, the Melt team, and we'll see you next week for our pre-New Year's melting down into 2021.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MeltATL, and follow Vince at Vinny Inc., and on LinkedIn as Vince Thompson.